Yo, welcome back to
He's a Rubber What?
This episode, we're going to be talking more in depth of the Baratie restaurant, how Luffy and the crew found their way there, and all the
hijinks
that happened there.
Yeah. So the gist of it is they meet a Marine called Full Body. He's a lieutenant. Yeah. He's a very one-note character. Mm-hmm. Very stupid. Nobody likes him. He's only there for Sanji to beat up, basically.
Okay, good. Because I was like, knowing that he was a Marine, I thought it was going to, show us more in depth how, corrupt or like crazy Marines are because of our last Marine that we met. But no, dude was just boring. It was just very boring.
Yeah, and he's just there so that Luffy becomes entangled with the Baratie because he fires a cannon on them and then Luffy slingshots the cannon into the restaurant. Mm-hmm. And because he's honest, he tells the people who ask who did it, he's like, oh, that was me. Mm-hmm. And then he ends up going to the head chef and they're like, oh, they're like, head chef, we found the guy who did it. And he's on his knees and he sees that the head chef, whose name is Zeff, Z-E-F-F, he's lost his leg, and Luffy's like, oh shit, I lost his leg, oh no, I made him lose his leg. He's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, this happened a long time ago, like, stop freaking out.
Relax.
And then Full Body is on a date, and he's like, oh, this is the best restaurant in the seas, and it's the only restaurant that's floating on the sea, and I got a place here, like, don't you love me? And then everybody's, like, looking at him. They're like, oh, that's Lieutenant Full Body. And he, like, loves the attention because every One Piece villain is a narcissist. Mm-hmm. And so Sanji comes up and he serves their food and he serves their wine and he hits on the girl that the Marine guy is on a date with. Mm-hmm. And then the Full Body guy's like, oh, this wine, I know what this is. And then he says, like, he, like, sniffs and he tastes, he's like, oh, this wine, it's this wine. And then Sanji's like, no, it's not. And then everybody starts laughing at him. And they're like, he's like, oh, maybe your taste buds aren't as good as you thought they were. And he basically made fun of him.
In front of his date.
In front of all the people. And he's like, oh, I'm so mad. I specifically told him to get this wine. So basically, he's not even a wine taster. Mm-hmm. Very one note, very boring villain. And then he smushes a bug under the table and he puts in their soup. He's like, hey, waiter, like, why is there a bug in my soup? And then Sanji's like, I'm not the waiter, I'm the sous chef. Because all the waiters ran away, I have to serve everybody. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, there's a bug in there? It's like, we can just take it out and you'll be fine. And then he's like, what are you talking about? And he makes fun of him again. And then he breaks the table and all the food spills everywhere. And then Sanji gets very mad. And he beats...
He fully bodies him. He wrecks him with his beautiful kicks. I mean, like, dude is crazy strong. It makes sense why Luffy was, like, basically begging him to join them. But yeah,
Sanji is a beast. And he's very doesn't like to waste food. That's his creed, and we figure out later why, but anybody who wastes food, he's gonna beat them up, basically.
Good. As he should.
Yes. So what do you think about Sanji, like his introduction and
his introduction character? I felt like was hilarious, especially watching him flirt with Full Body's date. He's obviously really into him. I mean, we even see how he is with Nami. He's like he's hilarious, I'm sure. And we don't get to see a lot of his dynamic with Nami because but I'm excited to see that in the next arc that we watch. But yeah, I loved his introduction. I loved the way he fights. I feel like I say that a lot about I feel like I said that about a lot of the characters so far, like how they fight. But his is just so cool. He just lifts up his long legs and just hits people with it. Mm-hmm. But I like Sanji. He's honorable. He's sweet. I mean, kind of, not really. He's kind of mean, but he's sweet when it comes to like things that people should be sweet about, if that makes sense. Like how he's
kind. He's a very kind person. Yeah. I didn't realize this until recently, but that was his main character trait, and I didn't pick up on it the first time around, and I feel kind of stupid.
I feel like that was because you watched it when you were a lot younger.
I did, but there's like a recent arc that kind of focuses on him, and it's only then that I realized, like, oh yeah, he is very kind. Like, I'm thinking back to all the moments, like, Sanji is a really kind person, and I forgot about that. Like, I didn't, like, register that in my... I was like, Sanji's just Sanji, you know? Right. And he's slowly becoming one of my favorite characters in the series because of that. Because I realized that.
Yeah, he is really sweet. I mean, like, we see a pirate come onto the ship that ends up being Don Kreig.
No, Gin,
but he's one of
Don Kreig's.
Don Kreig's.
She was gonna say Craig, guys.
Yeah,
like the coffee maker.
It's Keurig. I was saying Keurig for a very long time.
Don Kreig makes your coffee and steals your ships.
Yeah, he will never make you coffee. He'll say he's making you coffee and then drink it and then probably
poison.
Yeah, he'll poison you too. But we see Jin, who's a part of Don Kreig's crew, and he was starving, poor guy. I mean, he was literally crawling. He was so like hungry, and everybody was just like, oh no. But Sanji was the one who fed him and basically told him, like, dude, you have like a future ahead of you. You need to eat. And then dude just starts like starving it down.
And then Luffy sees this and he's like, I found a cook.
Yeah, like, I need you a part of my shift. And I feel like Luffy has a keen way of knowing, like, who is deserving, you know? Like, who he wants to be
on his crew
with. Yeah, and I don't... So far, I wouldn't have picked Nami, but I trust Luffy's judgment, and I trust that he sees something that we don't see so far, or maybe you guys see, I just don't. But
Nami hater over here, guys.
Honestly, truly, I'll put it on a shirt if I have to. I don't like her. But I feel like he was a great introduction. But Jin then leaves after he's fed and everything, and then he gets on this little tiny boat, and then comes back with his freaking captain.
He's like, can you feed my captain, Sanji? You said I could come back.
Oh my gosh. I wish he hadn't. Like, relax, just eat your food. But I feel like Jin is the classic case of Stockholm Syndrome. He is literally, like, he's abused. We later on in the arc see his captain literally poison him, like give him poison gas and tell him, like, don't even wear a mask, you are not deserving, because he doesn't want to kill Sanji. I'm like jumping, but still, like, this guy hates you. He does not care if you live or die, and then you're just like, oh, he's the strongest man I've ever seen, and I'm still going to feed him.
Like, Jin, like, respects strength, and he thinks, because right now Don Kreig is the strongest person in East Blue, and we later find out when Mihawk, I'm jumping too, but when Mihawk comes, he's like, oh, East Blue is because they say this, they're like, oh, Don Kreig is the strongest in this sea, in the East Blue. And then Mihawk's like, East Blue is the weakest of all the 4 seas, by the way, so BT dubs. Yeah. Just letting you know.
Right, don't get too excited. That title really doesn't mean anything.
So it turns out the sea that everybody's from is the weakest out of all the seas in the One Piece world, and you'll learn, like, later, like, they'll show you, like, a globe of the world, I believe, later, but there's basically 4 seas, 4 main seas. There's East Blue, West Blue, South Blue, and North Blue. And then they're just quarters. They're just like the quarters of the world. And then there's a huge red continent that goes through I would say the prime meridian of this world. It's called the Red Line. And then there's the Grand Line, who goes perpendicular to the Red Line. So that's one of the oceans that's the ocean that everybody wants to go to, right? So it's a Grand Line. So it's a line, and it's very grand. Awesome. Very nice naming technique by Oda there.
Very self-explanatory.
Yeah. So that's why he's like, so out of all the seas, East Blue is the weakest. Yes.
That's crazy to think about. It's exciting to think about too, because, like, if these people are weak, if Don is weak, then, oh my god, speaking of Don, he had a crew member that he finally took out of the woodworks to fight against Zoro and Luffy. I think it was Zoro. I think Zoro was there.
Zoro fight Mihawk, and then he left to go after Nami with Usopp.
Right, because Nami at that point had taken Going Merry.
Yeah.
Because she saw the wanted poster of, I forgot the pirate's name. It started with
Arlong.
And she was just like, this pirate, and like took the ship and did her own thing, and Usopp was like, I'm following you, so they left. But Pearl came out of the woodworks to fight against
He's
Luffy.
kind of very, like, lame.
He's lame, but I was just so confused with him. Not the character development or, like, what the creator chose to do, but I was just confused, like, why would you set yourself and everybody else on fire merely because you're bleeding? Like, let's relax. Like, I think you need to take a step away from the situation and realize nothing is ever that serious. Yeah. But he was an interesting character. I also realized that Don, even though he is, like, obviously one of the strongest villains we've seen so far, I feel like he's only strong in terms of the
amount of weapons.
The weapons he has and the armor he has. Because the entire time I was just begging for Luffy to get closer to him because I knew Luffy would knock him out. I knew Luffy would be able to fight him. And I think obviously Don knew that too because he kept firing things at him and trying to get him at bay. And he also knew he had the devil fruit, so he was trying to like drown him, which was the main source of my anxiety this entire arc. Even though I knew Luffy wasn't going to die, I kept like sitting on the edge of my seat like, oh my god, no, he's like so close to the water, he's gonna drown. And then after he defeated
Don Kreig,
he did actually end up getting into the water, but Sanji
saved him. Yeah. I just want to go backtrack a little bit to the Grand Line and how everybody there is stronger than Don. Don Kreig actually went to the Grand Line, if you remember.
Right.
And he came back because Mihawk, what did Zeph say? He's like, oh, did you like wake him up from his nap or something? And then they're like, what are you talking about? That's like a dumb thing. He's like, well, that's something that would bother somebody that powerful, so.
Right.
That's probably why he destroyed your entire fleet. Right. So I find that hilarious. Like, of course, that's like peak Mihawk. You know, it's like, oh, you woke me up, you're dead now.
I'm not even gonna mess with you like that.
Yeah, and so basically Mihawk destroys his entire fleet, and then when they get back to the East Blue, the Marines chase them, and that's how Gin ends up getting arrested, and then that's how Gin ends up going to the restaurant before everybody else. And then Don Kreig comes, and then the ships get sliced. And we see the ships getting sliced, and then Mihawk is introduced. And Zeph does like this little like exposition basically saying, oh, Mihawk is the strongest, and then Zoro's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna fight him. And we talked about this last episode, but I want to go a little bit more in depth with this fight. So we talked about, you didn't like the fact that Zoro got beat up because like Zoro's your homeboy, right?
And also, yeah, he's my homeboy, and also I just felt like he wasn't ready. Like I felt like, and obviously that was the whole point of it. That was literally the whole point. He's not ready, and he felt as though he needed to challenge himself and to show what he needs to improve on.
Right.
And I admire that. I respect that. I personally, I think maybe my feelings are just getting in the way from seeing this in objective like storytelling. I'll be honest there, because I feel like if I wasn't already super like in love with Zoro, I think maybe I would have been like, no, this was awesome storytelling. And I can recognize that as is. I just felt like if we had seen Zoro fighting a lot more already, or like had the creator given it a couple more episodes before introducing Mihawk and that challenge, I feel like I would have been more like interested in seeing that fight, because I already knew Zoro was going to lose. After Zeph explained who Mihawk was, I was like, there's no way, like, I love Zoro and everything, but there's no way from what we've seen. There's no way. And if it did happen, if he had won, I would have been like, that doesn't make any sense. He didn't give us any like explanation on why he now is the greatest, right? Because I was expecting, if this show has like 900 episodes, I want to see character development, obviously. And you can't really develop anybody past he's the best. So if he had won, it wouldn't have been a good storytelling. So I understand it. I was just like, oh man, I don't want to see him lose, you know?
Yeah. I like this fight because like I said, it showed how weak him and Luffy were, and we know that Luffy and him are the strongest people that we've seen so far as the viewer. But I also like the fact that he fights him with Mihawk fights him with a little dagger because he's like, oh, I couldn't find anything smaller than this to fight you with. He's like, oh, you think this is a joke? And then he tried his strongest move on him that we saw. He took the guy from Buggy's crew out with like in a second. Mihawk blocked it. Right, he blocked 3 full swords with this tiny little dagger, and Johnny and Yosaku, who have been with Zoro, and they're like his friends for a while, they're like, oh my god, that's his strongest move. How did he stop it so quick?
Right.
And then it shows the difference between him and Mihawk. And then I really like the fact that when he loses like with dignity, basically. He's like, he stabs him, he's like, why don't you move back? And Zoro's like, I feel like if I move back, I'm breaking like very important promises that I've made to people that are very important to me. And Mihawk, like, his thing changes from, oh, I'm gonna show him that I'm strong, like he's a little frog in a well, that he says, to, oh, this guy actually has ambition, and he's not doing this for fun. He's doing this because he's doing this for others, people. And so his demeanor changes, and he's like, okay, I'll fight you seriously now. And he takes out his huge sword, and he basically he defeats him with it. And then Zoro's swords break, if you remember, but only the one he got from Kuina is the one that didn't break. The one he got from Kuina is called the Wado Ichimonji, and it's a special sword that was made by a special person. You'll find out later. That's why it didn't break. Like, that's why the other 2 blades broke. And so he puts his sword away. He's like, okay, I lost. And then Mihawk is like, and then he faces Mihawk, and he just puts his arms out, and he's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, a wound on my back is dishonorable. And then he's like, nicely said, bruh. And then he just slices him like on his, like, crisscross across his chest, and it's like, oh, and then he gets in the ocean. And before he gets sliced by that last slice, he remembers Kuina. We go to the flashback or whatever. But what's really interesting to me is that he remembers what Luffy said when he met him, and Luffy's like, oh, you want to be the greatest swordsman? Like, nothing less for somebody who's going to follow the Pirate King. And I didn't notice that before, but I did now, and I'm like, okay, Zoro has made this promise now to 2 people that are very important to him now. And now he, like, I feel like his dynamic with Luffy has, like, changed because of this incident, because Luffy, once again, he didn't interfere. He's like, this is Zoro's fight. And then when Zoro loses, he gets put into, like, the boat with Usopp and Johnny and Yosaku, and he gets, like, healed, like, he's fine. Like, Mihawk's like, no, I didn't kill him because I want him to be better than what he is. And then Zoro gives that speech about how he's like, I'm sorry, I worried you guys, and now he says, I will never lose again. You got a problem with that Pirate King. He doesn't call him Luffy, he calls him the Pirate King. And this is just my favorite moment, not in this series, but, like, in this part, because it shows, like, how Zoro doesn't, like, after this, Zoro doesn't think Luffy is funny anymore. Like, he's not, like, following him just to see how it's going to be. He's following him because he made a promise to him, and he made a promise to Kuina, and he's not going to break that promise anymore. And he made it even more challenging on himself. He's like, I will never lose again. So
I can't wait. I can't wait.
I really love that moment. And also, he calls him Pirate King. This isn't the last time that any of Luffy's crew members are gonna not call him Pirate King. They, like, of course they all believe in him, but they never, like, say it throughout the series that, like, oh, he's gonna be the Pirate King or anything like that. They just like, oh, he's like Luffy, and we trust him. And like I said, action speaks louder than words. But when somebody says something like that in the series, that's, like, a big declaration. It's a heavy moment, right? And so the fact that Zoro was the first of the Straw Hats to call him that is really just, I really love this moment. And so
beautifully said.
That's why, and this is when I started to love Zoro. Like, after this moment, it was, like, favorite character in the series.
Me too.
Very, like, things I didn't notice before with him remembering Luffy, what Luffy told him, and the fact that he had tears in his eyes was like Zoro doesn't cry.
That broke me. I was like, oh, I hate Mihawk. I think, honestly, like I said, I'm biased in that. Where I was just like, no, Mihawk did this. He shouldn't have been introduced.
No, and then Mihawk was like, and I love how Mihawk asked Luffy, he's like, oh, what's your ambition? He's like, oh, you guys seem to be really close. What's your ambition, kid? Like, oh, I'm gonna be the Pirate King. And then he says, oh, that's harder than beating me.
Right.
So, like, imagine.
Right. Oh my god. And you said we're closer to the Grand Line now. And that is super surprising to me because I really thought since they've been speaking about the Grand Line like it's something so off into the distance that I felt like we wouldn't have reached there until like episode 100 or something. But the fact that we're getting closer and these episodes, this arc really showed us how quote unquote weak these characters are. And we didn't see that before. Like you said, these are the strongest people we've been introduced to. And now that's changed and they're getting closer to the Grand Line and there's going to be really impressive people there. I'm legitimately worried for them. I'm excited, but I'm legitimately worried. And I'm also worried about I wouldn't say the whole dynamic of the crew, and I hope that in the next few episodes we understand Nami more, but I'm worried about Nami being there in the Grand Line with them because I feel like if she pulls the stunts that she's been pulling lately where it's like leaving Zoro in the oil or like asking Usopp to fight by himself or taking the ship with them, how are they going to survive the Grand Line or make a name for themselves if every crew member is not, you have
a point
together?
I did not think about it that way. You have a point. But the thing is with the crew is that everybody has their individual goal. Right. Like we learned in this one, Sanji wants to find the All Blue, right? Luffy wants to become Pirate King. Usopp wants to I don't know if Usopp said what he wants to. Like, he just wants to be a pirate, wants to go out and explore. And then we don't know what Nami wants to do yet either. But, like, they each have an individual goal, and they strive for that goal. And if you remember when Zoro met Luffy, he said, if you get in the way of my goal, then I will cut you down myself. Right. Remember? So... But the fact that they're all able to work together to go towards that goal, and the fact that Zoro's goal aligns with Luffy's goal a little bit, it's just, like, it's amazing, because, like, Zoro has to be stronger, not only for his ambition, but so he can protect the crew, right? And, like, the weaker members of the crew, like, let's say Usopp, for example. And Luffy needs somebody strong by his side so that he can become the Pirate King, because Mihawk is like, there's stronger people than me that you have to defeat to become the Pirate King. So the fact that their goals like align and there's already that symmetry between the two of them, it just it's just genius storytelling, genius writing. But they're both still going for their individual goals. That's what I like. So it's like teamwork, but like you're still doing your own
as well. And I feel like we saw that in other pirate crews, but in a more like the meaner way, where it's true. Like the captains are like, I have my own thing going on and this is my goal and I'm gonna use these guys as body shields literally. But this crew is different obviously because everybody's respected and everybody has that like ambition and motivation from the other crew members. Like Luffy is like,
and Luffy only looks for people who have like the same ambition that he does,
which is awesome. I mean, you are who you surround yourself with. I really believe that. Like your judgment
I did not think about it that way. No, but like but he asked Sanji to join because of what he did with Gin. Like he was so kind to him, but then he later finds out like that scene where at the end, where I'm jumping again, but that scene at the end where Luffy and Sanji are talking. And Sanji's like, have you heard of the All Blue? And his face just lit up.
Yeah, that was adorable. That was
what
really
was I
adorable.
doing when that happened?
You were like, oh!
I was crying, yes.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, this is such a cute moment. And I look over and I'm like, okay, so fun.
People who have read the manga or even watched the anime, you know why I'm crying at this part. But if you haven't...
It was adorable. Because, I mean, we've seen Sanji, like... Even in the flashbacks when he was younger, he was always very like, you know? And when he was older too, like in the present, he was very like, cool man, like, you know, flirting with the women, you know, doing his own thing. Yeah, like
youngest sous chef on the restaurant.
And then the second the All Blue is brought up, he just turns to Luffy. He's like, oh, I've never heard. And it's just the cutest thing ever.
And
like,
Luffy's like, yeah, what? No way. That's so cool. Like, they're like, oh my god, we're gonna be best friends.
Yeah, they're little kids. I'm so excited for Sanji to be joining the crew. I'm really excited.
It brings like a different dynamic because Zoro, his goal is like, I want to be the greatest. So it's like strength. But like Luffy's goal is like, I want to find the One Piece and become the Pirate King. So like becoming the Pirate King is like a strength thing, like with Zoro. But like finding the One Piece is kind of like an All Blue thing with Sanji, like as in it might not even exist. Right. So I feel like there's that dynamic as well between the three of them, like already, and we haven't even met Sanji. Like Sanji and Zoro never have spoken before, but like
they're not as like
they haven't
don't
like
know each
actually
other
had a
as
conversation.
well,
So there's
right?
already that dynamic to think about. Like even
Mhm.
Sanji and Zoro's goals are like different, but they both relate to Luffy. And once again, Luffy has found a crew member where his goal is the same as his goal, kind of, in
Yeah.
a sense, basically.
Yeah.
So I just genius storytelling.
Very genius, honestly. I'm getting a lot more invested into this story than I thought I was going to be, honestly, because I don't know. I was like, okay, well, it's like one of the longest running animes right now. It has to be good. Nobody's going to invest money and time into this if it's not good. But like the first couple of episodes, like it reels you in, but you don't really see like the huge world that's out there. And I feel like we're seeing a glimpse of that, and I'm getting super excited, and I really, really can't wait for Nami's story because I want to love her. Nobody hates her. I realize like, I'm not trying to spoil anything for myself, so I'm not like joining any forums. I'm not like reading anything yet, but I don't think anybody like thinks she's a bad person. So I'm like, there has to be a reason for all of that.
So the next arc is the reason why I love One Piece.
Okay, let's just watch her now.
No, but I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah.
Just to like it's elevated. It elevated the storytelling for me, and it's like it went to a whole nother level. Like the Baratie, like it showed us like strength wise and like power wise and like fighting ability. It's like all like the next one just like emotionally wise. It's why I love the series so much.
I'm so excited.
He uses that storytelling more and more throughout, and that's why I love that series. And it's One Piece has taught me more about writing than any writing class I would ever take, or any like foreshadowing. This series is the one that teaches you how to foreshadow. Because like introducing a character that we're not going to see for a really long time, like Mihawk, like we're not going to see him for a while. But the fact that you brought him here like at the stage is just like it shows that the story and the world is already built, and you're not like just following it to follow it, but there's like a world out there, and that anticipation and that suspense is what keeps people in, and that's great writing. Yeah, it's amazing. So I feel like we're jumping around a lot, right? But we haven't talked about Sanji's past yet in detail, so let's focus on that a little bit. So, what do you think about Sanji's past?
So, I don't know. I think it was adorable in the sense that like food is what motivates him, which honestly, I mean, that's pretty on par for a cook or a sous chef, but the fact that he bonded with Zeph, who was a former pirate, I don't think we talked about that.
Yeah, Zeph, that Zeph who used to be called Red-Legged Zeph, because when he kicked people with his legs, blood would cover them by the end of his battles, and so he was known as Red-Leg Zeph. Yeah. And even Kreig knows him, Don Kreig, supposedly the strongest, whatever. Right. And he went to the Grand Line for like a year, and then he came back and he met Sanji. Hello! Editing Safa here. I realized the episode was a little bit too long, so I decided to cut it here. You will hear the rest of the Baratie arc from me and Whaaa next time on He's a Rubber What?